Hello, everybody. Welcome to Babylon Tom. Today, we're gonna have a look at the disgraceful news that we have over the last couple of days that there were 3,000 priests, 3,000 Catholic priests, who raped between 2,900 and 3,200 priests that since 1950 have raped over 216,000 kids if it's only the clergy. But it's much more if we include everything like, teachers and surveillance and all that. It's over 330,000 kids that were mostly boys that were raped. So boys between 10 and 13. So the boys represented 80% of the victims, between majority being 10-13, by roughly 3,000 Catholic priests. Now, you won't see anything by the government done, because you see that in France, Emmanuel Macron was Jesuit educated, and those Jesuits, he's Jesuit educated, and he's likely a Mason, because on my channel, you've seen that François Hollande, the former president of the French Republic, said that, if you want to be part of government, you need to go through Freemasonry. And so Freemasonry is Jesuitism, it's Satanism, it's spiritualism in the Bible. So the Pope says he's very sad with this reality. But, it's not the first thing we hear that from the Pope, saying, oh, it's a scandal, but nothing happens, either from the Pope or from the various countries. See, just to maybe finish my argument here, the ways that those aggression took place, that the majority of them, 30% of them, took place in the schools, and 21% during the catechism learning, or some Catholic learning. Other in the youth movement, another 20%, and at the office or at the place of the aggressor, 21%. So it's roughly well distributed, right? If they would be hiding themselves, they would maybe they would have some kind of trick to trick them into their home, or maybe a pilgrimage, or a vacation camp, or summer camp, or but they don't. It's well distributed, meaning they don't care. They just don't care. They know that they're gonna have coverage from the church. They know that if they're caught, they're gonna be transferred in another country, and they'll be free to continue their sodomizing of the kids when they're gonna be there. So and it's not the first time I use this passage from the Bible here. Babylon is the Catholic Church. Babylon, the greatest fallen, is fallen. It has become an habitation of devils. It is an habitation of devils. Those priests are all possessed. They are all demon-possessed. And the whole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. You see, that's church and state, the fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are wax rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So you see, the kings of the earth and the merchants of the earth are in bed with Babylon, and they're fornicating. It has several signification. This fornication, it has a first degree meaning, which we've seen in the news, but it also has a second degree meaning, which is church and state. And the call that we have for those Catholics is, come out of the Catholic Church, otherwise you're going to be, you will be partakers of her sin, and you will receive her plagues, right? So here, in Revelation 6, 7, 8, and maybe 9, you have an interesting call from God. God is telling us, reward her even as she rewarded you, right? He doesn't say, I will reward her as she rewarded you. He said, reward her, meaning it's an order that he's giving us. and double unto her double according to her works. So in the cup which she has filled, fed her double. So it has a great meaning, you see. And during the the days of the Reformation, and when we've seen war, rising upon the earth, often was because of the Catholic Church. And for example, the 1773 Act of Quebec led to the American independence. So that's a significant move or decision from the Americans to wage war over Canada because they were seen it as an act of war, which is legitimate to me. And so again here you see, so that's God is giving us advice here. He says, reward her as she rewarded you. But then he says, how much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. He doesn't say, if you want, you can, give her torment or sorrow. He says, give her. It's an order. And the reason is that she says, in her heart, I sit as queen, I'm no widow, will see no sorrow. So basically, the reason that we are ordered to do that is that she thinks she's untouchable. But what it says here is that God's going to protect us because, he says it. And he says because she thinks she's untouchable, do it. And then, you see, so this is it. This is our part. But there in Revelation 18:8, we see, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death, mourning, famine, and she shall utterly be utterly burned with fire. Strong is the Lord the God, is the Lord God that judge her. So you see here in these verse we got orders from God, but here God takes the reign, right? Here God is basically, I believe this is the plagues that start here. And is again, the reason of the plagues is that the kings of the earth have committed fornication and all that. So we got a part to play here. I think that Babylon fallen is upon us, and it's pretty obvious. I want to come into a little Ellen White here. I took Great Controversy 1888. This is just the first one that popped out. The good. They are all good version about except of Great Hope. So I want to emphasize here: the sins of Babylon will be laid open. The fearful result of enforcing the observance of the church by civil authority, the inroads of spiritualism, and the rapid, stealthy but rapid progress of the papal power, all will be unmasked. And these solemn morning the people will stir. Thousands upon thousands have never heard words like these. In amazement they will see testimonies that Babylon's the church fallen because of her error and all that. And you see here what it says. The sins of Babylon will be laid open. That the very next sentence, it says the reason why. The fearful result of enforcing the observance of the church by civil authority, which is basically what we have right now with the COVID, what we have, and then the vaccine too. It's papal interdict. You can see my video on that. And we are enforcing the observance of the church by the civil authorities worldwide. And it's linked with the sins of Babylon. So be ready, guys. We're going to see more and more of those sins of Babylon because we are in that time. This is it. And you see the inroads of spiritualism. So the Jesuit, denouncing the Jesuit has never been as strong as today, as it is today. It's from every side of the so-called Protestant, even in apostasy, right? The so-called Protestant church are denouncing the Jesuits and the spiritualism. Spiritualism is nothing else than Jesuitism. And they have invented Freemasonry, so it's the same thing. The stealthy but rapid progress of the papal power, isn't it that? I mean, we're on the cusp of COP26, right? The rapid progress of the papal power, and it's linked with the sins of Babylon, and we see that. We see that happening. 300,000 kids that were raped by priests and prelates. So, again, I mean, she was a prophet. Ellen White was a prophet. And this book, you can see a couple pages, I think it's 580 or 590. You see that the chemtrails are there, and the not only that, the climate change, and even the medication, the vaccine for today is there. It says that this guy's name is a great physician who can heal all their maladies. He will bring disease and disaster until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. So this is the book, guys. You need to study it. You need to study it and try to, study it in an honest way. And you'll see that she's a prophet. Ellen White has predicted the civil war in the U.S. She's predicted the San Francisco earthquake. And she says San Francisco is going to be destroyed again. And it didn't happen yet. But it's going to happen. Because she's a prophet. So it's going to happen. And I'd like to, maybe take a couple of seconds to here it's talking about the third angel here. So it's all linked, right? It's in the same paragraph. The message of the third angel will be proclaimed. So the third angel of Revelation 14 is, don't take the mark of the beast, which is Sunday, a Sunday law, which is coming. It's in the Laudato Si encyclical of Pope Francis, point 237, and it will be implemented with the environmental law. It will be implemented, and it's gonna start softly, like a day of rest for the family, but rapidly it's gonna be go to church. Otherwise, you can't buy or sell. And so the point I want to make here is that the Lord will work through the labor will be given. Yeah, okay, that's what. So here it says that the third angel is going to be given, right? But the laborer is going to give the third angel's message, will be qualified rather by the action of the Spirit than by the training in the literally institution. So here in Canada, all the pastors, they go at Burman University in Alberta. So they are trained there. And basically what it says is that they're not the ones going to give the third angel. And it is not surprising when we see, Pope Wilson II, whose three angels message he proclaimed but never said exactly what it is. So he says, proclaim the three angels, but he never defines what the three angels was. And so here is an important part here, I believe, because we know that many ministers are going to fall in the end. They're great ministers of great ministries. And here it says, the men of faith and prayer will be constrained to go forward with holy zeal. Okay, no, that's not the point I wanted to make. Sorry, this paragraph. In every generation, God has sent his servant to rebuke sin. Okay? Does it says, he has sent his servant to rebuke sin in the world outside of the church? No. Both in the world and in the church, right? So in every generation, in the world, in the church. He's talking about his church, right? His church is his people. But the people desire smooth things spoken to them, and the pure and vanished truth is not acceptable, right? So many reformers, in entering upon the work, determined to exercise great prudence in attacking the sins of the church and the nation, they hope, by the example of a pure Christian life, to lead the people back to the doctrine of the Bible. But it didn't work, right? So the point here, you need to rebuke sin you need to do it. And many ministers out there, don't want to do that for the church for some reason that I don't understand. They just don't. For them, the church is kind of sacred when we know it's gonna fall. Ellen White's. I'm gonna do another video. I told you I'm gonna do another video on that. I will. And the church will fall, and we need to rebuke sin in the church. Those big ministries that do a great work for other things, but don't rebuke the sins of the church. It's a great thing. It's a great sin. You see it here. To rebuke sin, both in the world and in the church. But people don't want to, right? They want to just concentrate on the world, not on the church. What did Jesus said to the priest when he came and said, you sit with prostitutes and tax collectors and all that? Will you do that? And Jesus said, I come for the the physician come from the sick, not from the people who are we're all okay. Sorry about that. And so so it's an important thing to do to rebuke sin in the church is absolutely essential, because otherwise, people are in the state of sin and they don't know it. And you've seen in the Revelation here 18, it says that, come out of her, otherwise you will be partaker of her sin, right? Come out of her, my people, be not partaker of her sin. So if the church is in a sinful position, you need to denounce it. And, I'm going to do another video on the church in particular, but I think it's important to rebuke the sins in the church, particularly. So, coming back to this pedophile in France, I think that, it's the tip of the iceberg. Because in Jeffrey Epstein, he was connected with the Catholic Church. He was connected to the Catholic Church. He gave to charities, and not only that, in his, so they're connected with the Pope directly. So if you tell me that the Pope, when he says that, is it's such a grave thing, what did he say again? I think it's in the other one here, that the Pope says, well, I'm very disappointed with the church and all that. Well, no. You see, the greatest pedophile organization is the Catholic Church. And again, it's the Jeffrey Epstein scandal is not, you haven't seen any one of the child that was raped from Epstein's mansion and all that. What you've seen are books and associations, and the vast majority of kids never showed up. Why? Why is that? Because I believe that there are satanic ritual abuse in there. I think that the kids are sacrificed. I invite you to look at Aleister Crowley's work. Aleister Crowley was a Jesuit Freemason, and in his book Magic's Antiquarian Practice, tells you how to practice magic, which is to sacrifice kids, preferably boys, minor boys. And of course, you have always this doctrine of sexual magic, which is associated with it. So usually they rape them, and then after they kill them. And this give them, the power of magic, which is essentially demon possession. So the Pope was, this is John Paul II, is associated with Epstein. So again and again, I mean, it's all the same guys. It's, the Babylon the Great is fallen. It's become a habitation of devils. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. And all nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the merchants of the earth are rich because of her. So the billionaires, they're all part of it, guys. I've looked at them. I mean, they are all doing the signs. Part of Bill Gates, which I believe is Satan personified. And they're all doing it. I mean, the black and white face, which I call the mini wheat face, or the signs with the hands and the feet and the handshake, and it's all the same thing. Steve Jobs was always wearing a turtleneck, a black turtleneck, which is a sign of the Jesuit order. And his buddy Wozniak had a Jesuit uncle and went to a Jesuit school. So it's all, you've been told that if you work hard all your life, you're going to succeed, right? And it's true. God can make that happen. But those guys, they're telling you that, you know why? Because they want you to be their slaves, what they want. They want you to imagine that they can be as rich as him if you work hard, when the only reason why this, take for example Bill Gates, a complete nerd, no social life and all that, or Larry Ellison, same thing, a major failure, a loser, just like the Gates. Or another one is Tom Cruise, all losers, rebels. They didn't want to do anything. They want to hear anything from anyone. They sold their soul to the devil. That's what they did, and they became rich. That's it. It's not that they work hard. It's that they sold their soul to the devil. That's what happened. And so, on that, we'll leave it at that. I think, another proof that we're living at the end times. It's flabbergasting. God bless you. See you soon.